I'm Adrian Lacey. I'm in the southeast of England. Did you laugh? That bit's not meant to be funny in and of itself.
It's supposed to be a comedy podcast, isn't it? I know it's not funny.
Well, we're not comedians. I think if we're ever funny, it is, of course, unintentionally, and people are laughing at us rather than with us. Some people don't get that, do they? Anyway, he is Shane O'Connor in the Midlands. I don't know why that's funny either.
Can I just
Are you laughing at yourself?
What people won't know is that, because you beautifully edit the whole thing, is that you don't like
leaving this in.
You leave a gap at the start before so you've got a clean bit so you can get in there and edit so the start of it. But it was just it was too long. It was what my mate used to call it was a monkeys have ate all the packed lunches gap. And
as in the director who didn't like the presenter,
who didn't like Lisa Riley on You've Been Framed, yeah. And it was just too long. I just thought, all the monkeys have ate all the packed lunches.
Yeah. Dear listener, I wouldn't dwell on that. Don't let it get in the way of enjoying the show, as we hope you will. The show being The Comedy Slab, and we put a different comedy, be it TV, radio, or internet/podcast, on the notional slab of comedy, prod it about a bit, dissect it, see if it wriggles, see if we laugh as we're doing it, see if you laugh. See what... Have I done it again? Did you put a monkey on the slab in your head?
No, if they put something on the slab and it wriggles, you've really not given it enough of what you should have given it before you started.
Well, there is a problem here. I can see that we're not actually meant to kill the show. That's not what we go out to do. So I'm hoping no one's listening too closely. And if we move on swiftly, I will say that we're this week slabbing Uncle, which was a BBC Three show when there was still a BBC Three. But if you're listening a few months hence, there may be, once again, a BBC Three. Again, we touched on this last week, didn't we? As a linear channel, as opposed to just catch-up, stroke, BBC iPlayer, etc., etc. Anyway, I'm just going to take a sidestep before we get into putting that on the slab. And as ever, we will have 3 audio clips, so don't worry if you haven't seen the show. You can at least hear it in clip form in a little while. Just a quick thing on here. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it raises a very interesting issue, which is that Lee Francis, most famously known these days as Keith Lemon, but Lee Francis is his, as far as I know, his real name, it's the performance name. He's kind of disowned Bo Selector, or at least the black characters of Bo Selector. Now, this is not, it doesn't seem by any stretch unconnected from the tragic death of George Floyd, killed in the US just over a week ago, I think now. I honestly don't know, but then I'll be honest, that I haven't read deeply into it, but he doesn't explain, Lee Francis, it's an Instagram post, which is doubled up on Twitter. He doesn't explain what in particular he thinks was wrong about the way he portrayed black characters.
I mean, none of this really kind of works for me. You know, this. I mean, perhaps it's the cynic in me, but you know, people who are unconnected in all of this. Is it an insurance policy? So, if somebody in a revisionist way kind of looks back and goes, "Oh, he's a racist," then he can go, "Well, actually, I apologise for it." So, I mean, that begs the question then: is it okay to be a racist as long as you apologise for it afterwards? If he was a racist, you know what I mean? Or is it? I don't know. Is it? He just wants to be part of the conversation because he's been locked up for a while and nobody's noticed him and in his big act. Well, I don't know. I really.
That's as you suggest, a very cynical take. You know, I have my own cynicisms at other times.
That's good for me because it's a cynical double whammy, isn't it? That one actually. There's like normally there's an upside and a downside.
This cynical thing is the case, or the other cynical thing, or the other cynical take. All I would say, well, he's a performer, so hey, again, if you want to be cynical, he does appear to shed tears in the video. Again, you might say, well, he's a performer, he can do that. He can switch them on like a tap. But the thing is, Bo Selector was all about being outrageous, and almost the joke was offensiveness, regardless of who he was talking about. Elton John could have been, I don't know whether he was or wasn't, very offended by the portrayal.
The loveliest quote from the whole story was from Craig David, who, of course, was one of the characters, wasn't he? He always used to have a Craig David thing where he had, for some reason, he had a bird of prey on his arm, didn't he? I never understood what that was about. But I think that was part of it.
It was a kestrel, wasn't it? Kes.
Yeah, correct. But they asked Craig David, and he said, quotes, "To be honest, I don't really care either way."
Well, that's the thing, and I did
rock
say,
on, David. You're my hero.
Well, I thought the point of the Craig David portrayal was, for me, nothing. It didn't come across as anything to do with race. Look, we're two white guys. People can make of that what they will, but I thought it was about lampooning Craig David's ego.
Right?
Didn't you feel it was just bringing him down a bit?
I didn't even think it was that. But then it wasn't about me. But I didn't even think it was that. Pointed. I thought he'd just chosen somebody who he could caricature. That's what I always thought they were, a kind of caricature.
But the other thing was...
In the same way, was it Mel B that he did? And gave her like a kind of Vera Duckworth, oh, you're all right, Chuck, kind of voice side of thing. It was just...
Don't do the crab paste joke.
It was... it was just a caricature, wasn't it, really? And that's all I...
The other thing was... The central character, the Beau Selector, the notion was, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was it was a fan, so obviously a fictional character. I mean, I think we can agree on that. But a fan whose way of expressing their fandom was to dress up and put masks on of the people of whom they were fans. That, I thought, was the original take. And actually... yeah, I was going to get into why he had a sling on, but that's another story altogether. And you do actually find out. I thought it was a surreal thing like the kestrel. Ant and Dec, I think, could be quite offended with their portrayal, but I never heard whether they reacted.
I think the interesting thing as well, I thought, this is like there's a kind of a hierarchical lattice of... what's right and what's wrong now, judged by people on social media, is that didn't he used to do Michael Jackson as well?
He did.
But is that okay because Michael Jackson has been semi-disgraced after he died? Some people believe.
The paedophile. Well, yeah. Oh, it could go on and on, couldn't it? But I just, very quickly, I thought one or two instances where comedians have, I think, probably... unintentionally caused some kind of offence. I was thinking, Little Britain. Do you remember Sebastian, the very gay or at least camp character number 10?
No,
played by David Williams.
No, I wasn't a big fan of I kind of dipped in and out of Little Britain.
Right. So. I thought some really funny stuff. But I read about a court case or someone where someone was bullied, and this is where, you know, it's quite removed from the showbiz thing and the TV end of it.
Yeah.
It's how it affects people, as it were, at street level. Someone got taunted, being told they were a Sebastian. It came up in a court case. I saw it in a news story. I cannot remember the details. And then I thought, well, Matt Lucas is gay, and it's the last thing he would have wanted, one can only imagine. So there is a problem. Once you do use bit in front of the camera, you've lost control after that, or you might be at the edit if you're a powerful artist. But you cannot... control, like Loads of Money became a taunt for people from the north who there was greater unemployment during the Thatcher years, and that Harry Enfield was satirising the Thatcher greed.
I just thought he was satirising plasterers who very often would do work for cash and earn loads of money. I mean, he was a plasterer, wasn't he? The Loads of Money character.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he wasn't. It wasn't a city gent, was he?
No, I don't. I mean, the whole thing. I don't know. It's really intriguing and saddening in equal measure, this whole conversation, because, you know, I mean, people will bully people, and it has nothing to do with the creative mind that created something. No. It has to do with the mind of the person who's being the bully and the psyche of them. And you end up. Who was the court case? I can't remember who it was. Was it Iron Maiden who the Americans tried to take to court? There was some heavy metal band and said that this guy had committed a murder because he'd listened to heavy metal and the lyrics had told him. Oh yeah. And you kind of think, well, you know, and then you end up with that sort of society.
The devil told me to do it through these lyrics or whatever.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just find the whole thing baffling to a large degree. The Lee Francis thing, the whole thing. I couldn't. If somebody stopped me in the street and said, "What's it about?" I have no idea. I wouldn't even want to second guess it. The world of celebrity.
Just quickly, one of the more inoffensive acts I would have thought from the 70s was Morecambe and Wise. But I heard, because I know someone who knows Des O'Connor, that their jokes about, and they were written by Eddie Braben, so, where do you go with that? But they deliver them, so of course it feels like the words are associated with them. But Des O'Connor's daughter apparently got bullied over that. And the joke was just, these are awful records. And ha ha ha, he can't sing very well. Well, he still sold millions of records. So, and the joke would only have worked if you could be satisfied that Eric and Ernie liked Des and didn't really mean it, and it was a joke. But hey,
but the problem is with the bully, isn't it? As I say, that I keep going back to that.
You're right. Yeah, they've got to take responsibility. But then nice people don't want to be feeding this stuff. But then you don't know that you're feeding it until it's too late, do you? In a way,
that's like saying
very often.
If you work at Toyota in Derby. How do you feel about putting those cars together that could end up taking somebody's life?
Yeah.
They don't even give it a thought, do they?
No. Shall we skedaddle on? Right.
Anyway, Uncle.
Yes. Well, call me Adrian, but I am actually Uncle Adrian. But that's another story entirely. We've got 4 lovely nieces. I haven't got time to talk about them now. But the reason we're looking at Uncle this week was a nice link. Nick Helm was in last week's show that we slabbed last week from us on the Comedy Slab, of course. The Reluctant Landlord was the show. So there is a nice link. And Nick Helm is, amongst other things, he's a stand-up. Came to prominence around 2010 with his, or arguably around 2010 when he was at the Edinburgh Festival. Essentially, it's a high concept thing, if you like. He's an uncle, but he's slobbish. He ends up looking after his nephew. The nephew, actually, it's not that way around. The nephew ends up looking after him, really, sort of parenting him and being almost the straight man or straight boy to his funny man. We'll come to what I thought of it a bit later on. I've now got to guess what you made of it. And I'm just going on gut feeling. I can talk myself into the ground with these things. I'm going to go on balance that you'll like it. I don't know that you'll fawn and worship it, but you don't have to. None of us has to. But I think you'll just find it an enjoyable half hour of TV. It doesn't pretend to solve all of life's problems, the mysteries of the universe, the music of the spheres, or anything like that. But it's a good, solid laugh. And his roots are in stand-up, as far as I can make out. So, and that has translated. Doesn't always work. We sort of slightly differed on that last week with the Reluctant Landlord. I'm not going to ask how correct I am on that. You want me to guess a score, though, probably, don't you?
You can do if you want. I started that, but I kind of wish I hadn't then, because it... I don't know.
Yeah, because it makes the other person look silly very often. I'm going to go... I'm not sure that you ever give things 3.5, but for some reason... it's my default score. I'm going to guess 3.5 out of 5 when we give it scores out of 5 at the end of the show. And I'll either be ridiculed or revered for my perspicacity. Oh, get you. Rhymes with David Cassidy. That's a lyric there. Far-sightedness.
Okay, I'm going to make a note of that because I'm actually writing a love song about David Cassidy, so...
Could it be forever?
You're a fan, I see.
Oh, clearly. Actually, I think that's a very good song. Yeah, I like it.
Should we have a clip then? Because
yeah,
I'll give you the headline after the clip, and then more will be revealed, as the exotic dancer said to the vicar.
Who may or may not have doubled up as an actress in her spare time.
Yes, when she could get her equity card.
Yeah, or when work dried up.
Yeah.
Right, let me find the button here.
What I should say, as the actress said to the bishop.
We are slabbing specifically Series 2, Episode 1. And I had the same problem that you may have, dear listener, if you haven't seen Series 1 at all. We've got to do a bit of running to catch up. But I'm going to help you a bit because you're only hearing short excerpts. Essentially, it sounds like there's been a restraining order. We hear a reference to that. So the nephew, Errol, is meant to keep away from his uncle because I think the uncle's... He's got mixed up in drugs. Whether... I don't know the background, but you'd have to watch Series 1 to find out exactly how. But that's where we are, and it seems apologies are due. Oh, and before I have to apologise... There is some, shall we say, fairly ripe language. It's a bit sweary Mary.
I'm sorry too. This whole restraining order's just really...
Getting on your tits.
All this sneaking around is just giving me a rash. I've cut out caffeine, so I know it's not that.
Well, why don't we just ask your dad to drop the restraining order? I'm sure he's cooled down by now.
Oh, you think? Once I told him I didn't like his cooking and he didn't talk to me for a week.
Fine, then I guess we're just going to have to keep this secret for the rest of our lives. Now switch it back on and let's have a game.
You know, I've got a better idea. Let's write a song.
I think I did see a puzzle around it somewhere.
Oh, come on. When was the last time you wrote a really cracking tune? We haven't done anything together since Rage Records.
Yeah, I'm just kind of letting some ideas percolate at the moment.
No. Are you telling me you haven't written a song in a year? You've got writer's block.
I don't have writer's block.
It's okay. Hemingway had writer's block.
Really? What did he do about it?
He shot himself.
Andy!
Shit, it's Mum. What are we going to do?
Let's just tell her. She'll be cool.
Yeah, but if Dad finds out that she knew, he'll never forgive her.
Fine, climb out the window then.
No.
I'm reporting you to the police.
Why?
For being a neglectful brother. I have my first client tomorrow. Why would anyone let me be their therapist? I mean, do they know my history? And look, I have bitchy resting face.
Now, I got really confused. Now, do you want me to tell you the headline first or tell you why I got really confused? I can do it.
Let's do the confusion first.
Well, because I thought the boy in the scene previous to 1 year earlier was a different lad, but obviously he hit...
Oh, dear. No, he's grown up rather a lot.
He hit puberty, didn't he? Because his voice broke like nobody's business.
It's a bit sad. It's a bit like when Alec Jones stopped being the beautiful, bright treble voice. But hey, you've got to move on, haven't you?
Although I was gobsmacked to see him say that he never actually sang the version in the film, did he?
Are we on to Snowman now from Uncle?
Yeah.
Snowman from Uncle. Snowman from... Oh, please yourself.
I was amazed to
I
hear
thought that was rather good.
What, the Snowman from Uncle?
Snowman from Uncle.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh. Well, laugh, damn you.
That sounds like Nick Helm's stand-up routine, that does.
Do you like jokes? Do you like jokes?
I'm better than this.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well,
I would recommend people Google or some other proprietary band of search engine. Do you like jokes? Nick Helm, BBC Three.
Right.
I find that very funny, that sequence.
It was live at the Apollo as well. He did the same act, didn't he, I think?
Well, he's allowed to take it around the country in the days that you could.
Yeah, although it kind of jars a bit now, doesn't it, with the days of YouTube? That's the only problem.
Right.
Headline?
Yes.
My headline is Uncle Festered.
Now, that's a reference to Uncle Vesta.
Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, but Uncle Festered.
Right. He festered. So I'm completely wrong, aren't I?
Not completely wrong. I'm kind of middle of the road with it, I suppose, really. But
that's not going to be 3.5 out of 5.
No,
is it? It's going to be 2.5 at best.
Probably, yeah, somewhere in that
you blue meanie
neighbourhood, I would have thought. For me, it was nice. It was a nice premise, nicely constructed, and obviously all the other stuff is a given. Is it? Nice cast, nice,
lovely Daisy Haggard, no less.
Nice,
who we heard at the end.
Yeah, although I found her voice really grating towards the end. I don't know if it was the way it was recorded. Maybe we can talk about that a bit later on as well. But
your voice grates on me, but I don't make a big deal of it.
You do every week. Even when you don't mention it, I've got to tell you, even when you don't mention it, he holds up a sign saying your voice is grating on me. Shut up. And I mean,
we can see each other. Yeah, but you still don't shut up. To your credit, you ignore me.
Well, I'm a trooper, darling. I just keep going.
Darling. So, nice acting. There's obviously the but, as it were.
Yeah.
So what is the but?
There were a few buts. I mean, obviously the lad... with his voice kind of thing going on, the broken, with the pubescent voice.
Don't have a go at him for that. That's natural.
Well, yeah, I know, but
they use it.
But that's why I moved up into second year at school, because I didn't want to hang around with kids like that permanently. You know what I mean? So,
are you wearing short trousers tonight or not? I need to know.
You think I am in AC/DC? And I hate saying it, but you know what I'm like with kids. I'm not a big fan of things with kids in it.
But you like kids so much. You had two.
Yeah, I like my kids.
Well, you still do.
But there's this thing where everybody thinks that you love kids because you've got kids. No, I love my kids. You can all keep your kids. I'm fine with that.
You can keep your kids.
You can keep your kids, mate. Go play down your own end. So yeah, I feel guilty saying it, but I did. I kind of found him a bit annoying. I like Nick Helm. I must admit, I liked it, but I was really confused because I saw his stand up, and he's got a really strange voice when he does stand up. Does he shout? Do you think? Is that what?
Oh yeah, definitely. But that is the act. I kind of love the cheekiness because the jokes are absolutely awful, but the joke is he knows that,
right?
Or there's a glint in the eye, and you know, in the do you like joke sequence, he says, I'm going to be explaining all of them as we go along. I mean, no comedian does that.
Right.
But that itself is a joke.
Oh, but whether you'd withstand an hour of that, you would, like 35 minutes in, would you go, I want a joke now, please? Yeah,
well, I'm not sure. I imagine that would be like an Elvis Costello in the early days with the attractions. Half an hour set, massive energy, loud, hit him right between the ears and the eyes, and Foxtrot Oscar very quickly.
Right.
To a waiting car.
It wouldn't be much of a night out, would it, for the audience?
Well, no. Look, this is a complete fabrication. I don't know how it happens, but, you know, certainly if he was on a bill with others, that would work.
Right.
But,
right.
No, look, that's not researched. I'll be honest on that one.
Go on.
But that's a vibe.
You touched on what you thought of it yourself. Go on, let's have your take on it then.
No, I really enjoyed it. Maybe it helped to be completely in the mood for it, but I thought the conceit worked, so I should have, you know, lowered my resistance years ago rather than prejudge it. It's terrible prejudging. Yes, in a sense, it is a bit obvious, but it's carried off well, and there's only so many variations between a nephew and an uncle. You could have a cool uncle. You got, you know, this should be called the comedy slob this week because it's a slobby uncle, and that's the joke. And you could flip that around, but then that's more conventional, isn't it? You know, a straight-laced uncle and a tearaway child. We've kind of been there before.
I did wonder how old it was at one stage, because I kind of thought, you know, all that's gone on in the last 3 or 4, 5 years. It kind of felt a bit creepy at times as well, that you know, he was hiding his nephew in the bathroom and there was a restraining order, and you kind of think, oh, this is a bit, ooh, you know.
Well, certainly you might find it harder to get commission, but nowhere is there any suggestion that there's anything improper. I don't know what the drugs thing was because I haven't seen series 1, but
you know,
I didn't worry about that. I'm surprised you did.
Well,
I can see where you're coming from.
I think it's probably because my wife, being a teacher, a dance teacher, we talk an awful lot about child protection. Because I'm involved in her business. I mean, we're both CRB check, for example. I never spend
DBS. I think
DBS is called, isn't it? Yeah, but I mean, I never spend any time with the children in any kind of context of teaching. But because I will edit the videos and stuff like that, you kind of think I'll just be on the side. So what I'm saying is, you're ultra safe, aren't you? You know, and
yeah, err on the side of caution. You can't really go wrong.
And for somebody to defy a court order, I don't know. I just kind of found it a bit. It's all a bit.
Well, it was BBC Three, a little bit. A little bit.
I think, but it was pre all of that, wasn't it? I think really is all. You know, the way that child protection is ramped up now is completely different to how it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and when you consider it probably had a long tail, if I may use that expression.
Yeah.
So if it hit the script, don't yawn while I'm talking.
There's no reflection of the company. It's just the reflection of the hours I'm keeping.
Well, go to bed then, and I'll do a solo show.
Okay.
Be better for it.
Oh, it's a bit harsh.
Yeah, that was a bit. I might apologise for that, but I'm not sure I will. I'll see which way the wind blows.
You wait to see if I'm any better thought of in 5 years' time, and if I am, then apologise.
Yeah. If I wake up to a Twitter storm, I'll say, "Oh no, you misunderstood me. What I meant was."
Yeah. Do you know that I found myself being annoyed by ridiculous things as well, and
right,
like the lad's haircut. And I thought
again, well, it's meant to look straight laced. It's a pudding bowl cut, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
and I thought, why am I getting annoyed by this? Is ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, it's because you hadn't bought into it at the beginning. When do you think the resistance went up? Was it straight away?
I must admit, I had to the first episode. I had to kind of whiz backwards and forwards in the first few scenes because, as I say, this kind of. I thought, well, this is
you were thrown by the chase.
This is a different lad here, and I thought, actually,
you do know they grow up quickly at that age.
I mean,
I know it makes us sound old to say
overnight, isn't it? It was a shocker. It was really,
but it's probably what is it? A year or 2 years between the shows. He talks about the storyline. It's a year,
right?
But I think it might be more because he's shot up even by a year's standards.
But I never felt the barriers going up at that point. You know what I mean? I couldn't pinpoint where I and I know what you're saying, but I couldn't pinpoint that point where I thought, oh, folded my arms in my head and went, oh, now entertain me.
Yeah.
In fact, I kind of my mood lightened a little when Nick Mohammed turned up because you know what a big fan I am of his.
Oh, gosh. Right, and I couldn't put a name to the face. Thank you for helping me out there.
He was his boss at the carpet store.
Yeah. Is he also was he in that... He's not one of the players in the Glaswegian radio sitcom we Slab.
No, he's not Scottish at all, is he? That's an accent.
Is he not?
No, he's putting that accent on. He's like, it's great.
All right.
But no, Nick Mohammed, I don't know if you remember, I don't know what we Slab that he was in, but he really...
Oh, it's Party, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. He frustrates the living daylights out of me because I always think he's worth more than he ever gets.
Yeah.
I love his stuff, I really do.
Well, handily enough, we hear Nick Mohammed now as indeed the boss. Our uncle, I don't mean literally our uncle, but the uncle of the... show of that name, he works at a carpet shop. It's a typical sort of, for him, a dead-end job, not having a go at carpet people. You want people who are fascinated by carpets working in carpet shops. Let's just say, as a frustrated would-be musician, he is not overexcited by weave and, dare one say, deep shag. So let's hear what happens. He's actually trying to get sacked, so he scribbles rude names or amends the names of the colours of the carpets. So he's approached by a customer here. Let's see how he handles it.
Hi there. Hi. Me and my wife, we're looking for some carpet for our home recording studio. We're thinking a sort of CBGBs meets like All Saints vibe. So, hang on. Don't I know you?
No, I've never seen you before. What colour are you looking for? Can I interest you in a rich buttermilk?
I've got it. You're that guy who was busking outside my coffee bar.
Not me. Sorry, I haven't got a musical bone in my body.
Oh, trust me, mate. Neither did this guy. He just stood there shouting, "One survivor!"
There's no survivors.
So it was you. So you've got yourself a real job?
Well, I'm still doing music.
Oh! Well, you can't win them all.
Well, what is it that you're doing lately that's so great?
Nothing. Apart from opening 2 more branches of the coffee bar. My band just recorded our first album. Sony's putting that out later this month. About to start shooting the music video for our new single. And you'll like this. The Guardian chose our EP as their pick of the week. I believe the quote was, "White hot. If the Clash and Kasabian made a baby." But that's it. What about you?
Don't you hate it when that happens?
Oh, you'd want to date. I'm not a violent man, but I would quite happily have taken him out if I had the strength.
I must admit there was like in that scene. I quite like that scene. I thought it was well constructed, really well written, really well acted. And I kind of felt myself feeling empathy towards the Nick Helm character, and feeling sorry for the guy. I'm thinking, what's he going to do? Is he going to hit him or whatever? That's how he'll get the sack. And I kind of really went with that. And there were scenes, and I think, the scene construction and the way the whole episode was constructed did draw me in. I did like it. And I think I ended up liking Nick Helm, but not a lot of the supporting cast, the things around him.
Really?
Or even what I originally thought. I thought, it's a really good premise, the idea that he's an uncle, and I don't know, I'd like to see him in something else, I think. Because I do think, and I've got to say, and we haven't touched on it yet, but the musical interludes took me a bit by surprise.
We're sort of in his dream world, aren't we?
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I hadn't.
No, me neither.
I hadn't seen a trail where, because he writes all the music, doesn't he?
Does he really? Oh, well, even more talented.
I'm only going
Talking of writers, before I forget, I should mention Oliver Refson and, if I'm pronouncing these names correctly, apologies if not, Lilah Vandenburgh, co-writing credit on this one, and also it's a Baby Cow Productions. Sorry, you were saying?
No, I just it was like out of the blue, out of left field. I thought I was looking at the credits at the end and then saw that he'd written them, and this is obviously something that he'd written in. But yeah, it took me by surprise, and I'm not sure. I thought it was quite an interesting premise and quite an interesting tactic to use within the episode. I'm not sure whether it was overused though. There was like a kind of there was a whole number, wasn't there?
With that. Yeah, a little bit too much. But the resolution was a musical one, and they'd obviously thrown everything but the kitchen sink, or probably including the kitchen sink, at that last number, which I thought was really good.
I was really curious to know about, you mentioned the writers, really curious to know how it had come about. I couldn't really find anything. I'll see if I can find some interviews with them. Because they hadn't written anything for TV before, and they've not written for anything for TV since, which is quite unusual.
Right. But Oliver Refson is the director as well of all of them, by the look of things. So even more talented. But that's a great way of retaining control over your writing and stopping people from monkeying with your original intention too much.
Yeah. The other interesting thing was Lilah Vandenburgh. I noticed in the end credits as well. She directed the pop video sequence when he was doing the gospel thing.
Oh, right. Which was the big number, big production.
The big number at the end. So it was obviously a thing that the writers wanted in there as well. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they hadn't done anything before and they haven't done anything since. And I just wondered how they'd arrived where they'd arrived. Kind of thing. You're saying about Nick Helm kind of like beamed down. They've sort of seemed to have done the same.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Curious. I do think, though, I mean, maybe I'm talking at the top of my hat here, but I always got the impression that BBC Three, in terms of commissioning, was more predisposed to take a risk.
That's the feeling of the culture of it. I don't know for a fact from the inside, because I never was on the inside, but it did feel like a breath of fresh air. And I think that does, if we're right, I think that does reflect on screen. I mean, particularly the early days of Channel 4, you may not agree, but a friend of mine always said, and this is when we only had the 4 channels, so it came on stream in 1982. I remember their first advert for Vauxhall, but let's park that, quite literally. But that was terrible, even by my standards.
Watch the wing mirrors.
He said you could always tell which one was Channel 4, and this, again, was before they used to have logos on screen, or that your TV would often not tell you, the technology being what it was then. If you just randomly switched it on and it came on the whatever you'd had on last, you could just tell by the look and feel of it. And I think BBC Three went out deliberately, that's how it feels to me, to be a bit iconoclastic and a bit kind of thing.
But don't you think in comedy production, in comedy making, that tends to pay dividends in the end? Because when you think of Channel 4's contribution, in fact, you've only got to look on all 4 to see, because a lot of it is still up there right to this very day. Right the way from Nathan Barley to Father Ted and the IT crowd and everything in between, their contribution to comedy has been massive in a short space of time. Similarly, when you look at BBC Three, I think it'd be interesting to see a list, because the one that springs to my mind from BBC Three is Ideal, which we slabbed a while ago now, which went out for 9 series. You kind of think, I don't think it'd have got 9 series anywhere else, maybe.
Hard to imagine it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, very few shows go to that number. Hold that Nathan Barley thought, because, of course, there is very handily, thank you for helping us into it, a direct link, the lineage between Nathan Barley and this show.
Oh,
you
is
obviously know where I'm talking. Oh, did you
No,
not
I
spot?
didn't. No, that was just me talking drivel.
Well, coincidentally, it turns out not to be drivel or indeed dribble. Nicholas Burns plays the father in Uncle, and who should be Nathan Barley back in the day but the self-same Nicholas Burns. Obviously, is another person who's confused you because they've grown up in the intervening period.
Well, no, I know him for something else. I didn't twig that connection. I knew him from, he was Nick in Absolute Power, the TV series with Stephen Fry and John Bird, is it?
Oh gosh! Oh, did that? I think I know that as a radio series.
It made
Is this set in Whitehall, or it's either that or advertising?
They're a PR company. Yeah, they're an advertising
PR company.
Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
I'm confusing 2 different shows, but
no, it was a
they
radio
may have
show
been a
as
radio.
well.
Yeah.
Was it John Bird or John Fortune? I can never remember.
John Bird.
John Bird. It was
Bird.
John Bird and Stephen Fry. And the younger guy, not the very young guy, but one of the younger guys in the office was played by him, played by Nicholas Burns. So yeah, that's I hadn't twigged the other connection, but yeah.
Oh well, let's hear him now in his guise as Dad, and this is, I think, this is meant to be, in my view, the crux of the whole show, and it's got some real dramatic weight to it, and not every comedy manages that, because obviously the premise of a comedy, you've got to make people laugh, but it's not every comedy that can move you at a kind of gut level, and there's got to be a gag eventually. That is that's the demand we make of comedy, clearly. But before that and the lead up to that, I see what you make of this. This is a bit of a showdown because, well, let's see if you can work it out from this. I'm sure you can. Where the son, Errol, is kind of in control.
What are you waving at?
Nothing, I got that restless arm syndrome. Don't let me near an auction.
Dad, I fancy seeing you here.
Congratulations, Andy. You're now officially breaking the law. I'm calling the police.
No, Dad,
Ben,
please, wait.
listen, we can talk about this
Deal with
first.
you two in a minute.
No, it's fine. I'm walking away. 200 metres. Officially walking.
I said stop! Errol! What? You're always asking me how I'm doing. If you're so curious, I've been seeing Uncle Andy every day after school for the last year, because he's the only person I feel I don't have to pretend to be happy around all the time.
I don't make you pretend. You can tell me your feelings.
My feelings? Okay, the restraining order is stupid. Uncle Andy is in this family, and you can't stop me from seeing someone in my family. I'm 13 now. It should be my choice, not yours.
But the drugs
were an accident, and he's been punished enough, and you weren't there, so how would you even know? The reason he's here is because you two didn't have the time for me in the first place.
I did really like the dramatic scenes as well. They were quite. Again, it wasn't a gag fest, was it? I mean, there was what I would call the meat of the dramatic story in there as well, which kind of helped you to buy into various characters.
Yeah,
I'm really disappointed in myself that I kind of found physical traits really quite annoying. Like his haircut and the. and I'm really jealous because I ain't got any, but
clearly,
it's
me neither.
It's and we never know why we don't take to these kind of things. It's got all the ingredients that we should have taken, or I should have.
It can be irrational, can't it? That's the weird thing. We can be irrational.
Yeah, the one thing as a ex sound guy or a resting sound guy, whichever way you want to look at it, that I wanted to ask you was everything seemed very high gain to me. Everything seemed like it was recorded at a very high level. Did you get that sense at all? Or I don't know if it's because I was listening on headphones, but like I say, Daisy Haggard, who I really quite like, I kind of found myself really annoyed by. I could almost hear the spit on her teeth. It was that loud.
That suggests slamming into. This is where we get a bit techie, or you're inviting me to get a bit techie. It's a bit of dynamics control. It's just a fancy way of saying bringing the quieter stuff up and containing the louder stuff. So there's less dynamic range. So the louds are still louds, but the softs are brought up to meet them.
Did you not pick? I mean, it depends what you listen on, doesn't it? Very often.
Yeah, it didn't worry me, but then I think it is. I'm not saying it's not the case. But I think I accepted that. I probably parked it because it's BBC Three. Channel 4 used to. I'm going way back when to the Tube with Jules Holland and the late Paulie Yates. They had massive amounts of compression, but squashing the sound like that. But again, they were trying to sound like a sort of Radio 1 because it was a rock music show with speech in between items. But it didn't worry me, is all I can say. But I'm not saying, you've obviously observed it and it's there. And I think it's like his haircut. It's something that you're almost reaching out for something to upset you because you've decided you don't like it.
And I have to say, just to qualify that, I mean, I didn't come away thinking I didn't like it. I had. It was really weird because I came away thinking, well, I'd watch another episode, to be honest with you, and I'd give it more bandwidth, as it were, to try and see if I could overcome my ridiculous prejudices. But yeah, I
You've never overcome any of the other ridiculous prejudices you have.
Well, it's because I don't think they're ridiculous,
That is exactly the problem.
I just don't like cheese, and I don't care who knows it.
I'm going to shock you.
Yeah, I like wine. Eat my cheese, your mother. Yes.
Smell my cheese.
So I don't know. I had a weird relationship with it. I've been thinking about it all week since I watched it, actually, and I'm
So you should. But, well, look, let us know, because we're all curious now, in every sense, listeners and me and all. If you do watch another one, we would be interested to know if you come round to it at all.
I'm trying to get through a backlog of Family Guy at the moment. I mean, I'm doing my best, and I promise I will. It's on my list, as they...
Who says you can't break into the Family Guy backlog? Have you made your own rules, which are equally ridiculous?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, okay.
Once you start the Family Guy backlog, you have to see it through to the end of the season. You can't just, otherwise you lose the flow.
Okay, if you say so. I've never got into the flow of that, but maybe that should... we haven't done that, have we?
I'm also going through a backlog of the Forensic Files as well, so, it's a busy world is all I'm saying. There's only so much TV you can watch on an iPad at night without falling asleep at my age.
Well, some people do what's called multiple viewing. They'll have several TV screens in front of them. That's the real addiction.
The only person I ever knew who did that was David Bowie and the Man That Fell to Earth.
Yeah, and look what happened to him.
And exactly. He had different coloured eyes, so,
Yeah, I don't know what that proves.
Yeah, we didn't actually, but that's another story for another day. Okay.
Did he not? Well, you have to tell me.
Oh, can I special mention as well to Con O'Neill? The guy that was dressed up with all the makeup on and everything.
Oh, right. Okay, I was trying to work out because I didn't recognise him from his photo, this sort of publicity shot.
Well, he was driving me mad
not...
because I kind of think, where did I know him from? And I look back through because he hasn't done a lot of TV. I think he's done an awful lot of theatre. He does a lot of theatre.
Right.
But he played Joe Meek in the Joe Meek Story, which was a BBC
which I did see.
And he was Joe Meek.
I thought I saw that at the cinema. Perhaps it was at the cinema before going on the telly.
It could have been, yeah. But he was fabulous in that. So big shout out to him as well. Big fan of Con O'Neill and his brief TV appearance. I thought that was awesome. Joe Meek Story. Yeah. Oh, and the other one. Did you notice who the lady was? Who he went to? He started. Looks like he was going to have an affair with. Who delivered the carpet?
Oh yes, she played Jack Dee's wife.
Yeah.
In Lead Balloon. Did she not?
Raquel Cassidy. Yeah.
don't start me.
Eh?
Anyone with the name Raquel.
Oh, Raquel.
I'm conditioned to. It's Raquel Walsh. Is that right?
Raquel Welsh.
Welsh.
Yeah.
Yes. Although she wasn't. So there's a misnomer.
She provided an awful lot of material for the two Ronnies, didn't she, in her day?
And Bob Hope. Bob Hope flew into
Raquel
to
Welsh.
the show when he'd like to. We won't do any jokes about airbags. Right, let's move swiftly on before we get.
Go on, finish that story. Bob Hope did what?
Oh, he appeared did a show for the troops when the Vietnam War was still raging, late 60s. He flew in a helicopter. That was the only way to get into the jungle, I think the show was, with Raquel Welch. Can you imagine the amount of hormones these frustrated poor soldiers weeks out in a hellhole?
Yeah.
And let's not get into the politics of blah, blah, blah. But anyway.
I don't know. I thought Bob Hope had nice legs. But other than that,
I thought Ronnie Corbett had nice legs when he dragged up, but that's another. Did you say it was the two Ronnies? Yes, she was the. Is the term the butt of the joke, or have I got the?
Yeah, she was more of the chest of the joke, wasn't she? Really, I think, yeah. Other than the butt. But,
I think we've outstayed our welcome.
I think so.
Shall we get to the scores on the doors, Miss Ford?
Yes.
I can't remember whose turn it is.
Me to go. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. I think. It's 2 or 2.5. I hope you're not going below 2.
No,
it doesn't sound like
I'm not going below 2. I'm gonna hit it down the middle, as Bob Hope always liked to do. I'm going to give it a 2.5 because, as I say, I came away not holding any grudges or anything like that, and thinking, okay. I mean, it piqued my interest enough that I would go back again, and. Once,
when you finished the Family Guy.
Yeah, and once I can get over those irrational annoyances, who knows what Uncle has in store for me.
Although, when you can get over them is anybody's guess, and whether you can.
I wouldn't like to. Go on. What do you say?
I'm frustrated now because I want you to spool through Family Guy, and so I get a sort of, as it were, a second opinion. What am I going to do? I am going to give my default score 3.5. Doesn't quite make a 4, not quite special enough for that, but it is a quality work. Some really nice writing, sensitivity around it. That beautiful dramatic scene that we had, I should have said, but I'm sure people worked it out retrospectively without me helping. We were in the carpet shop where Dad, there's kind of showdown. And it hangs together dramatically because the son has given us a reason. What I didn't say was we do briefly see a scene where Errol is with his dad, and you can see beautiful house they seem to live in, lovely backdrop, glass, fancy sort of a loft apartment type, swish London thing, I'm guessing. I don't know for a fact, but absolutely frosty emotionally. There's no chemistry in a conversation. Dad doesn't seem to show any interest. So that hangs together. We believe, hang on, he would go to a slobby uncle because, okay, they might play video games, but at least, it's like a big brother, really, isn't it, to him?
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
3.5 out of 5. Enjoyed it. Would consider even seeing another one. I don't have the excuse of Family Guy or that I am a Family Guy, unlike you. But I'm just terrible at getting around to watching things.
Well, in this particular case, you'd be lucky as well because that good old public service broadcaster, the BBC, hasn't left any of the episodes up on their own portals. But you can buy them on about 3 different platforms. That's good of them, isn't it? So you can actually pay for them twice now. Once for your licence fee. And then £1.79 via YouTube or...
Yeah, but if you'd written the show, you'd be quite pleased there would be an alternative revenue stream.
I'm still not convinced
sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say I'm still not convinced about that argument, but there you go. It's, I don't know. If like is supposed to be said, there is kudos to having your work on the BBC, then surely they can strike a deal that reflects that kudos. That doesn't mean that people who are paying for a public service broadcast are having to pay for it again and again, but, what do I know?
Well, the way I see it, you Q, I DOS, so between us, we've got the kudos.
I should be writing to Tim Davey anyway, the new Director General.
I bet you're so pleased, and I bet you haven't got a thing, a bad word to say about him, knowing how you revere all the Director Generals up to now.
I'm just sad that the previous one hasn't been fired out of a cannon from the roof of a tall building in London somewhere.
How do you know he hasn't?
Well,
and anyway, the tall building would have to be Broadcasting House.
Well,
surely.
It doesn't have to be their own premises, does it? You could do it from the Shard. I don't mind. If you can get the cannon up in the lift, I don't mind.
Gosh, you're so angry.
Anyway.
Right, so episode 99, no less, of the Comedy Slab.
Did we get a flake in it?
We should do like water for chocolate. Well, that's not even a comedy, is it? Anyway, I'll leave it to you to decide what the homework is.
Well, I'm not going to drag it out. I am
going. You are.
Oh no, I won't.
Said the actress.
Have you heard? Well, I thought of you when I chose this episode particularly.
Oh dear, that's ominous.
Because it's set in the finest jewel of East Watford, Bushy.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh, how has that not been on my radar?
Because, well, only this particular episode is of the whole series. There were 3 series of this particular comedy programme, but it is about a famous person who comes from Bushy. Who would that be?
George of the Michael Persuasion?
It certainly was. The series I don't know if you've ever come across this, is called Star Stories.
No.
And it's from an ensemble cast, and which we'll talk about in more detail next week. But Star Stories is an alternative take to tell the story of various stars. It's basically...
You can't knock the title, can you?
No. It's kind of how it might have happened, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Right,
I'm going to say no more than that. And the subject of Series 1, Episode 2, which is the one that I've chosen for next week, is, as you say, Bushy's very own George Michael. So that's your homework for next week. Star Stories, Series 1, Episode 2, George Michael.
Gosh, where might people find it, or where did it have its roots at least?
Where was it broadcast originally? Or Channel 4, I think, was the original. And I think I might stand corrected on this one. I'll check it out, but I think it might still be on all 4. Which
there's a good chance they do keep a lot of stuff on there.
Which is why this is why the BBC thing doesn't pan out for me, because I think Channel 4 are a part public funded organisation. Why can they do it? How can they do it? And yet the BBC, with all its might, prowess, power and heritage, can't.
I'm going to leave that question hanging there. They don't pay me enough. I'm off duty, and I don't know the answer anyway. That's 3 good reasons for not attempting an answer.
I'm going to leave a post-it on Tim's desk for when he comes in September. Be the first thing on his radar.
Tim, first name terms. Well, actually,
TD, I call him.
I have met him a number of times and emailed him. He's good at responding to emails. So, Mr. Angry from the Midlands, such as you are, you might even get a response.
Dear Adrian,
don't quote me on that.
Stop emailing.
No, not from me. Yeah.
The door to my office.
Sort of like that at the end.
The door to my office is always open. Get a screwdriver and fix it, will you?
Right, so social media or anti-social media, we are at Comedy Slab on Twitter. Do please follow us. It's a bit fits and starts, actually. I had a little turn today, if I may use that term, and I felt like retweeting some stuff. So you never know. You might find that I haven't or he hasn't tweeted anything for a while on the Comedy Slab account, and then suddenly it's London bus syndrome, if such a thing still exists in lockdown. 2 or 3 tweets come along at once. We're also at Comedy Slab. There's a Facebook page. If you could like that, we would like you even more than we do already, and that's quite a vast amount as it is. And if you can share the love as well, recommend us to friends, family, religious leaders, political representatives, whomever, wherever, however, just get the word out there, because we don't have a promotional budget and we're desperate. Did I say that out loud? I think I did. And lastly, but in no ways leastly, if you could give us a big thumbs up in terms of a generous star rating on iTunes / Apple Podcasts, that'd be fantabulosa too. Thank you in advance.
I don't know why I keep finishing your sentences in my head. I thought you were going to say, last but not least, if you can give us a big kiss, we'd be grateful. I don't know why I thought, maybe I just need a big kiss. Perhaps that's what it is.
That's probably that. Well, you've got a wife for that sort of thing. So.
For that sort of thing. Hello, wife. I want to say, any chance of that sort of thing this evening?
Yeah, see how that approach goes down.
And getting quick before it gets snapped up by the National History Museum, because we have a glorious back catalogue of Comedy Slab episodes which you can peruse. By the time you listen to this one, there are 97 others, believe it or not. So, you know, we might not be very good, but we're prolific. So,
yeah,
you know,
I think, what we lack in quality, we make up for in quantity.
Fill the width,
no doubt
darling. Fill the width, that's what we say.
As an uncle to 4 wonderful nieces, 3 on this side of the Atlantic and 1 on t'other side in Canada or wherever she's jetted off to, if you could jet off at the moment.
Is that the one that calls you Uncle Lady?
You misheard. It's Uncle AD.
Oh.